I'm building a newsroom with my deviations because they're adding a Mr. Wish guided cluster rocket. Yes, you heard me right, a Mr. Wish guided cluster rocket. But before we get into the Mr. Wish guided cluster rocket, we've got a whole lot of news that is in this episode. So, starting us off, we have some fantastic news. The release date for the mobile official launch is finally out. It is going to be on April 23rd. Now, I'm going to be putting out an additional video that has all of my thoughts as, a 2,500 hour player about the mobile version and kind of everything I've seen about it. I've even got to play it a little bit. So if you haven't subscribed and want to see that video, make sure you subscribe so that you'll see that when it comes out. But for this news segment, I at least want to cover some of the main key things here. So there's currently over 30 million pre-registrations, which is absolutely mind-boggling. So, you may not be a mobile gamer yourself, but think of these things. We're going to be adding in tons of new players, and we're going to have people that are able to now play on different platforms. And it's just, overall, it's good for the game. And ultimately, once they're finished with the mobile launch, that means that they're going to get back to making brand new content at a rapid pace. So if you're not actually playing the game yet, and this is somehow your first video about Once Human, just understand that with it being 30 million registrations, this is probably going to be the most anticipated open world post-apocalyptic survival mobile game on the market. I don't really play a lot of mobile games, but I don't know of any other ones that are like this. So it's going to be a pretty big thing. The game itself is basically a supernatural open world. It's got really weird stuff, kind of almost Cthulhian looking monsters. It's a multiplayer shooter. It has both PvP and PvE, and it has a very in-depth building system. And you have these deviations that essentially you can use them to fight on your behalf and enhance your combat. So if this sounds like it's something that interests you as a new player, or even if as a veteran player you think, hey, maybe I just want to play it on my phone every now and then, there is a pre-registration link in my description down below. And when you go to this link here, you're going to see this pre-registration rewards thing. So when you pre-register, as you can see, way over 30 million players. You're going to get a bunch of extra rewards just for pre-registering, so a couple skins and stuff like that, which is really cool. And if you scroll down even further, they even have this lucky draw thing, so you can always enter into that if any of this stuff interests you. Just make sure you check out any of the rules and stuff, based on your country or your age or whatever, you may or may not be able to participate. So up next, we have some really big news that just came out. And it's about a bunch of adjustments that are coming on March 27th that we haven't really heard about yet. They've maybe teased a little bit of it, but now they're giving us a lot more information, and they will probably give us the exact details just before the actual patch comes out, which I will cover in next week's news video, but we're at least going to give you a quick synopsis of this giant wall of text again. So essentially, they're going to be adjusting how pollution zones work. So currently, they feel that, they're predictable, they're really static, and nothing really matters with them. So they're going to be changing Stardust Ore to essentially suck up and suppress pollution. And if you break Stardust Ore, to mine it because it's a resource that you need, it's going to trigger contamination levels to rise in that area. And deviants are going to be basically attracted to this. And the more pollution there is, the worse you're going to get for deviants. And the little bit of footage that they show for this is basically that deviant that pulls you into the ground and just ruins your day completely without you really being able to do much. So I'm going to assume that that'll be a much more interesting mechanic in the pollution zones than what we currently have. Now, they're essentially insinuating that there's going to be additional rewards for that kind of area now that is going to give you pollution-specific stuff, or it might just be the Stardust Ore that is going to be able to be used in some new items that I'll talk about coming up soon. But they are adding a Veil of Tranquility structure, which is essentially going to be connected to power in your territory, maybe even mobile territories. I could see mobile territories being really good for this. So it's going to use their ability to give sanity protection to people nearby and weaken the deviants. I'm gonna have a lot more information on that whenever the patch actually comes out. I'll show a full kind of showcase of all these new mechanics next week. Now, similarly to the pollution zone upgrades, they're also adding something to Rosetta settlements, where essentially Rosettas are going to have secret convoys that can just randomly be triggered. We're not sure what's going to trigger them yet, but they have a convoy crate that you can steal. And once you steal that, they're going to essentially send a force of Rosetta elites after you, and until you unlock the convoy crates, they're just going to be after you. So these crates are going to have a new item called control units, which again, similar to the stuff I was talking about before, are going to be used to craft new bullets and tactical items. So with those new resources, we're now going to be able to go into this next section here, which is essentially they're removing all of the anti-type stuff. So all of the weapons currently in the game, they have things like impact, penetration, suppression, things like that on them, which means they do bonus damage to certain enemy types. They're removing that tag from all of the weapons, but what they're doing is they're now adding in specialized AP ammo that you can craft that will be more effective against deviants or more effective against Rosetta. They specified humanoids though, so one of the big things as a PvPer that I'm confused about, or I guess curious about, is that currently impact weapons do additional damage to metas, so players, and vultures. And the new ammo types that they've teased here are suppression and penetration. So penetration traditionally is only damaging towards Rosetta, but they've said it's humanoids now. So does that include players? Like, are we going to be making that ammo to shoot at players, or is the player additional damage stuff just gone? So to go with all this new AP ammo, we're also going to be having new tactical items, which unfortunately there is a tag on this information that says, note, the above tactical items are PvE exclusive. As a PvP player, I'm very upset about that because there is a Mr. Wish guided rocket launcher. It's a cluster grenade. And I want this in PvP. Like, why can I not shoot Mr. Wish riding a little rocket and aiming it at my enemies, okay? I guess for at least one scenario, I'm gonna go be a PvEer because this is just too good not to do. Like, I'm going to go and make thousands of these Mr. Wish rockets, and that's just all I'm gonna do all day, every day. I'm just gonna shoot everything with these rockets. So before I continue with all the other ones, they did also say that all of the offensive tactical items in the game are going to be able to be crafted with these anti-type effects, so kind of like the AP ammo. So I'm assuming maybe Stardust Ore and the control units or whatever they were called. You'll use those to make like anti-deviant rockets and anti-Rosetta rockets, stuff like that. So it's going to add a lot of depth to the game, but also it's going to add a lot of clutter to our inventory, so we'll see how that is once it finally comes out. So the next item up is the shield matrix, which, just based on the graphic here, it kind of reminds me of like a bubble shield from some of the older Halo games, where you place it down and then it creates a shield. It stops projectiles from coming in, but it allows you to shoot outwards. So that's going to be really good for PvE, but also like this would have been fantastic for PvP. So I'm sad that it's not coming over there, but maybe in the future they'll be able to tweak these things and bring them in there as well. And for the third tactical item that they showed in the teaser is a flamethrower. It's got blue fire, so generally speaking in real life, blue fire is very hot, but you can see in this little example that they have here that it just wipes out these Rosettas. So I know this is like just a show-off thing, but I'm really curious, like, is this thing going to be viable? Because like, you're essentially putting yourself in melee range against a bunch of NPCs, maybe even bosses. Like, can I melt a boss with this thing? I don't know. I'm really curious to find out when it comes out. And again, I have to show it one more time. There is going to be a Mr. Wish guided cluster rocket. Again, I'm assuming these items, since it's an offensive one, you'll be able to make like a Deviants destroying version or a Rosetta destroying version. No matter what, I just want this thing. I want this in my life. It's just, this is everything to me right now. Next up, to summarize, again, another giant wall of text here. I guess the developers felt that in Prime Wars, the Silver Plague Shield on enemies The only way to break it was with Gatling cannons, and they wanted to add some diversity, so they're adding in red plasma rocket warheads, red plasma grenades, and red plasma, or they're calling it red antiviral ammo. So essentially it's just more options. So the grenades are actually the grenade launcher rounds, and rockets are, you know, their warheads. So these are actually going to be replacing the current, like the gold mimetic specialization. They're now going to be these red plasma ones. So I'm assuming that's just going to be in manibus and like in the PvE servers, because if that happens in like Prismverse, unless these do actually still do more damage to buildings and stuff, this is like PvP is going to get hurt by this because your rockets and everything are going to be weaker, but we'll end up seeing when it comes out. But essentially it's just, hey, more options to actually be able to break their shields, so you don't have to do Gatling cannons. I think that is a fantastic thing for the game, because more choice is always better. After that, we also have a resource balance adjustment. So essentially they feel that the early game it's a little bit more difficult to get your resources, than the late game it's almost too easy, and I have to entirely agree with that. Usually late game, the only scenario that I have to actually use my resources and don't just have a giant overabundance is in Prismverse, where we're just constantly fighting all the time. So every other scenario, I feel like I just have so much stuff, and I feel like, you know, a lot of people are going to be upset with these adjustments because they're like, why are you reducing what we're getting in the end game? But you also have to remember that in this patch they're removing controllers, so they're going to essentially allow you to infinitely farm if you want to, and they're also adjusting where some of these resources are going to come from. So, you know, wait until the patch actually comes out before you judge this decision, because I have a feeling it's not nearly, like, it's not as bad as, oh, they're just reducing what we're getting. But at the same time, even if it is, we get so much of this stuff anyway, it's really not going to change much. So I'm not going to read out every little change that they're doing on there, but essentially it's like Stardust Source early game up, Energy Links early game up, and fuel and stuff in the end game down. And other than, you know, the Mr. Wish guided cluster rocket, probably the biggest thing on here is the mod conversion adjustments, for my gameplay at least. So they essentially have said, hey, we understand that grinding for high rarity mods has been a pain and a lot of people are frustrated with it, and with removing of controllers, you know, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff happening. So they said that they're going to increase the probability of obtaining high level mods. When you convert mods of the lowest initial level, there's now a chance to obtain mods with epic attributes. So I understand that as if you have really bad mods, so ones that have like whites and greens as their sub roles, that you still have a chance to now combine them and random roll an epic on it, so like a purple. If that is the case, that's amazing, because currently I just scrap all of those. They're all complete junk to me with how the system currently works. Now they also have the third note is the higher the total initial level of the mods being converted, the higher the minimum rarity of the mods obtained, and the greater the chance of obtaining high rarity mods. Now when I read that, I thought that's already how it worked, so I'm assuming there's some sort of either miscommunication here, or that it wasn't as good as I thought it was in the game and it's about to get a lot better. So I read that as, you know, if we take a mod with 7-point rolls in the sub and you have 6 of them and you combine them all together, then in theory, because they're all 7-point, you should get an 8-point out of that. But again, something we'll have to find out and actually see and test and make sure once the patch comes out next week, and I will make sure that I cover that. Now, outside of that, you know, major little teaser update for next week, I have scoured through all of the Discord and tried to keep up with all of the comments from Yager the Yager, who is one of the admins that essentially speaks with the population to clarify things that are said in these dev talks. So some of the things that I found were like the mods. Whenever the 27th patch comes out, they're going to essentially be combining all of our mods from all of our characters. So it's going to be one pool of mods rather than split up between all the characters, because they're like combining our accounts. So with that, big warning here, the limit is 2,000 mods. So if you have 2,000 on your main and you had a primary alt that also has like 2,000, there is going to be an automated system that essentially calculates the value of your mods and destroys the lesser ones until you only have 2,000. So it is highly recommended that you go through your mods preemptively and break down the mods that are not very good, but the system will also prioritize keeping anything that is equipped, locked, or has upgrades on it. So just make sure you're going through your stuff, because I know like with Lunar, we've been getting tons of mods, so we want to make sure that we're not losing anything that we've worked hard for, just because we played a lot of extra characters and got a lot of extra mods. Now this one here is super controversial, and I'm sorry to break anybody's hearts that in my previous news video, I believe I talked about how the Dreamscape scenario that is coming out, the way that they worded it was that it was going to be from Broken Delta to Ember Strand, and it was highly insinuated that it was going to be the entire map. Now Yager is here to basically explain that he's not the one that wrote that dev talk, and he got clarification. It is basically a miscommunication. It sounds like the Endless Dream mechanics and Dreamscape, or whatever it was specifically being called, that is coming out later in the year. It is a scenario, but sounds like it's going to be a scenario for each map. So it's going to have one for like the Manibus area, and it'll have one for the Way of Winter area, but it is not the entire map. So just understand that to combine the entire map, and this was something that I was thinking about when we originally thought that that's what was happening. I was thinking to myself, how are they going to manage this with the servers? Like, it's just going to become a laggy mess. It's going to just blow up the game. It's not going to work well. And so again, it was a misunderstanding of the way that they wrote things. So they are not going to have a combined map. So it's unfortunate, because I know a lot of people were really looking forward to that, but on the technical side, it probably would have been a laggy mess if that actually came to fruition. So it's probably better this way. So my previous video just before this one was all about, don't waste your phantom cubes, and I showed off every single phantom cube special effect for all the weapons. If you haven't seen that, definitely go check it out. Because of this information here, on the 27th, whatever your character with the highest collection level, essentially that's going to become your accounts, and they're going to refund all of the phantom cubes that you spent on that main character. So if you had 5 on your main character and you spent them all, you're going to get 5 back so that you can choose again. So if you chose things that you were like, I don't like these, fantastic news for you. You're going to be able to re-choose. So definitely check out my other video that shows all those off, so that you make sure that you choose the right one this time. And last but definitely not least, there was also a big post recently about the scenario phases getting adjusted. So again, giant wall of text, and I'm here to try to break it down for you. So the TLDR is that they're reducing the number of days in early phases of most of these scenarios. So like phase 1 and 2 are basically having some days shaved off of them, and then they're moving those days over to like phase 4 or 5 depending on the scenario. So essentially just meaning you get into playable content sooner, which is a fantastic change. And then for the second portion here, for manibus, and I'm hoping that this is just like they didn't put it in here, but if you read everything the way that it's written, it sounds like only manibus is getting this. So they're adding in nightmare difficulty silos. So like phase 4, you'll have like nightmare difficulty is going to unlock based on what they said here, and then you're also going to have apocalypse difficulty prime wars. So that sounds really fun, especially since we're going to have all those new red plasma rounds and stuff to be able to use. So more difficulty on PvE, I'm always for it. I love difficulty in my games, and currently I feel like we're all just overgeared for what's out there right now, so this is a good change. However, again, I don't see anything saying that this is happening anywhere but Manibus. The phase changes were shown for like Evolution's Call, but nothing really for Prismverse. But there's again just nothing when it comes to these higher difficulty things, and that being combined with like the tactical items not being in like their PvE only, I feel like the PvP player base is about to all take a one scenario vacation where everybody just goes over to Manibus and tries out all the new stuff, because why wouldn't you? But at the same time, because your alts now are able to be full power, you could just put an alt on one of these servers and still have your main or any of your characters on the PvP, so you can get kind of best of both worlds. So that's just up to you though. And another note that they had is that in the future they're looking at adding nightmare difficulties to the monoliths, so that's all your like bosses and the Lee research lab. And then the last part that they put out is the schedule for it there. So they talk about how the scenario phase adjustments are going to apply to servers that open after March 27th, whereas the adjustments to non-novice manibus scenarios open before the March 27th update will happen, which it shows the Nightmare Silos, Apocalypse Prime War. So it sounds like basically that stuff's going to be added to all of the servers, but if your server was before March 27th, it won't have the phase changes because the phases are like baked into the scenario, so they obviously wouldn't want to change them mid-scenario and then break the system, so that all makes sense. So these are all the key things that have happened this week. If there's anything that I missed that you think is super important, make sure you let everybody know in the comments. And if this video helped you, there will be another one on the left, and my full Once Human playlist will be on the right. Now, where did my worker deviants go? I really need them to unpack these boxes.